I just bought tickets to go see a band in Kansas City that technically isn't even still together. They're just doing a little bit of a reunion tour. They're technically still broken up. It's called Anberlin. Because of that, I thought this would be a great time to go through the Anberlin discography. In 2003, Tooth and Nail dropped a new album by a new band called Anberlin. That album was called Blueprints for the Black Market. Anberlin brought some really unique things to the table. First and foremost, the major thing you'll notice right away is that the lead singer, Stephen Christian, has a really, really unique sounding voice. He's able to get a lot of power behind it, but it's very, very soft. It's also a very mature sounding voice. When Blueprints for the Black Market came out, Stephen was only 23 years old. So his voice sounded like this even when he was quite young. And Stephen's really unique voice and sound, along with the style and writing of their music, really made for a unique blend. All in all, what Anberlin was doing was combining a lot of different features from genres at the time, including some I didn't even notice until this most recent re-listen. Lyrically, Anberlin for the most part is extremely emo, and no, I don't mean My Chemical Romance, Suicide Things, or Darkness. And no, I don't mean like traditional folk, shoegaze, math, emo. I mean just very emotionally charged music. So what we have in this album is we have a little bit of influence of the super popular pop punk at the time, some traditional rock and pop rock elements, and weirdly enough, and this is something that I don't remember hearing or noticing until this listen, was there's like a couple new metal influences in some of the guitar riffs that are happening. So Blueprints for the Black Market is a weird mix of all of these sounds plus Stephen's voice and these just extremely emotionally charged lyrics into a nice little package that is Anberlin. In a lot of ways, you can hear future things that the band would do present here, just not as fully developed yet. That is to say, during the course of their career, if I remember correctly, they don't actually do any huge, massive shifts in what they're doing, but rather they hone the craft to better use. But since it's their first album, not everything they do is done as well as it could be, and you have some weird other elements because they hadn't fully found their true sound yet, hadn't figured out what they do best yet. So there's a lot of good and a lot of bad here. And if not bad, at least just kind of awkward feeling. Ready Fuels is a good opener, fast, gets the energy going right away, but Foreign Language is a little bit weird. It's got a little bit more of that pop punk feel, and it's got like pop punk type lyrics where it's about not being able to communicate effectively with girls and girls not being able to communicate effectively. It's got a little bit of that differences of the sexes that you get from pop punk, but it's not really angry enough or whiny enough. It's just it's a weird fit on this album for me. I used to love this song growing up, but now that I'm re-listening to it, I just feel like it's kind of awkward and weird. The third track, Change the World, Lost Ones, is where we get a little bit of something that I don't remember Anberlin ever really doing, which is a call for social change. We get a little bit of that like new metal riffing at the beginning of this song, but they're talking about being the ones to change the world and fix the world's problems, which I'm guessing they're pulling in from like a U2 vibe and like trying to get some more stuff in here, but I just don't know if it works. Melodically, it still feels really cool, but lyrically, it just doesn't feel like they're really in their wheelhouse on this song. Cold War Transmissions is a little bit of a story song about lovers on different sides of a war, and I don't really feel like melodically it's as interesting as what Anberlin even does on this record, and especially what they would do later on. I feel like there's just some weird chords and melodies that they're going for, and the theme just isn't all that interesting in an isolated song by itself. My favorite track on this album is called Glass to the Arson, and it's still very, very good. I texted Andrew, as Drewby on the site, right away when I first heard the song. I was like, dog, this song is still good. It's still very good. Glass to the Arson was one of the very first songs I fell in love with by Anberlin. It's still very good. It gets some of the hard-hitting rock elements with a lot of the really emotional elements in Stephen's voice, both the soft and the harder side with huge dynamic transitions. And it really just gets down to the core of being able to spill out your emotions in a raw way. For the most part, the rest of what we get on this album is a lot of breakup songs, songs of unrequited love, very few instances of being able to be thankful in the moment that we're in for the lovely moments that we're in. But for the most part, like I said, it's really emo. And I do mean when I say emo in this case, that it's kind of lost love, love that's not working, unrequited love. It's just not working out. And this is very much all the feels. If Adele is the artist that you listen to in pop music, kind of jazz music to get all the feels there, this is kind of like a more mature, rocky version of the way that emo kids who do like a My Chemical Romance or Blink-182 might feel. But coming from Stephen Christian's voice instead of a Tom DeLonge or Rivers Cuomo or any of those sorts of things. It really just sounds a lot more mature than those bands, and it works in a way that's not as embarrassing to listen to when you're a grown-up. The only other really notable track that's on this album that I'll mention is called Autobahn, and it starts off with kind of an electronic-y synth vibe that eventually goes into a lot more of a pop-punk style, almost like teen romancy feel, but with Steven's voice behind it, it has a whole different tone to it. I was in a text conversation multiple times with Andrew this week trying to decide if this song still works or if it comes across as corny, because it either is really corny or it works and it's really heartfelt. And I think maybe the truth is somewhere in between, but I ended up coming across really liking this one. So as a wrap up, I really like what they did with this album. If I were hearing it for the first time, my interest would be piqued. I don't think that it's perfect or even super great by any means, but it's definitely interesting. Some of the things that end up happening here don't fit and sound a little bit weird, but they're trying to find their way, and I think they really get there later on. I'm going to continue going through their discography on this channel. If you want to keep watching, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell if you want to get notifications about when the new videos are coming out, and leave a comment down below with what you thought of Blueprints for the Black Market. It's available on all your streaming services, especially if you heard it a long time ago. I want to hear how maybe your opinion of it has possibly changed over time. Make sure to keep your eyes out for other videos that we've got coming out on the channel of different types, and thank you for watching.